Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most unique chess events ever is currently going on here in November 2024. And it involves the best player in the world, Magnus Carlsen, and the second highest rated player in the world, Fabiano Caruana, playing something called freestyle chess. That's not what really makes the event unique. That's just part of it. Freestyle chess is Fischer random, or chess 960, where the back row of pieces is shuffled and randomly selected, so openings don't matter. But what makes this event interesting is that these boys are playing this in Singapore on a yacht. And they did a photo shoot where they were without clothes in a pool. Now listen, you can accuse me of many things, such as farming Magnus for content. In my defense, I have never asked him to get undressed. And the reason for that is, more than anything else, I'm a married man, and I love and respect my wife tremendously. Also, if I asked Magnus to undress to take photos of him, that would be kind of strange. My point is, Magnus and Fabiano are doing this super extravagant, high-quality photo shoot. They were on the roof of the Marina Bay Sands. It's a famous spot in Singapore. And it's really cool. It's really exotic. It's a really, really unique event organized by the folks that organized the Freestyle Chess Tour. That's Jan-Henrik Buttner and that whole team. And I'm going to show you game number one. Today, they played a game, and it was super unique. Format, super exciting. And before I do that, as of yesterday, November the 21st, my chessboard is now in 2,100 Walmarts across the United States. This thing right here. So if you've been waiting, if it's been sold out, check your local Walmart or go to the Walmart website, and I'm sure you can get it shipped for the holidays. And Chess League 2.0, big news is coming, but I've been talking about that the entire month. Anyway, here's Magnus and Fabiano. Now, they didn't play this game while sitting in the pool with no clothes on. Also, there's like stuff all over Instagram. Magnus posted on his Instagram, and he said something about chess selling using nudity. You know what I'm saying? So now, for anybody confused, this is freestyle chess. This is chess 960. This is Fischer random. It is a style of chess where the back row of the pieces is shuffled, but some rules are still upheld, like the bishops being on opposite color, etc. And this is Magnus's dream format. He wants to play classical, 60-minute chess, fast classical, with this. And in fact, the Freestyle Chess Tour raised $10 million. So we're talking big money to put on a Freestyle Chess Tour. I'm hoping to join them in their next event in Germany in February. So that hopefully will be exciting. Let's go. Let's play. This is their first game, and they're playing this on a yacht. So I've never seen a chess match on a yacht. This is the first one. Magnus opens with f4. The thing about Fischer random chess and freestyle chess is opening your diagonal attackers is very important. And there are some setups where you just have two knights in a corner and massive weaknesses, right? Fabiano plays knight to b6. It's a good move. White can now probably continue also with g4. Moves like this are quite interesting, but it does kind of weaken the king, and you don't know if you're ever going to castle this way. That is one of the questions, by the way. How do you castle? We'll figure it out. Knight c3 is played. Magnus building toward the center here. Also ideas to potentially play a4, a5, which obviously would undermine the position over here. Fabiano here plays the best move in response, which is this move f5. I know it's kind of crazy to think of best moves, but yes, Stockfish is weighing in on the position even in Fischer random, which is quite wild, or freestyle chess, or whatever whatever name this has. Magnus plays knight b3, and now these pawns are quite supported. It seems that we are not going to be touching the b and the c pawns, and instead maybe we're going to play in the center. Now black has a very difficult decision to make. What is the optimal setup? Right, like what is the setup of piece? And the thing is, in freestyle chess, you can get a losing position in like 7 moves by accident. And it's just because of the dynamics of the position. That's kind of what makes it interesting and what makes it exciting. And the fact that these positions are randomly drawn is another element of the game. Now here it looks like d6 is the best move. The point is that if white goes knight b5, the way you defend this pawn is with queen c4. And if knight a7, the knight is trapped. So you cannot just go after pawns in the corner of the board, right? With knights especially. So here, if Magnus was to play, for example, g3 and try to play in the center, This, it seems like, is the optimal setup. 2 knights and a pawn and build toward the middle. Fabiano plays knight a6. And just like the true and tried ideology of chess that says knights on the rim are dim, are grim, are slim. Slim might not be bad if it has like weight loss goals. Yeah, this is actually already a slight inaccuracy, which is kind of nuts. It would have been better, like Fabiano didn't play knight c6 because that loses to knight b5. But if you play d6, you have possibilities of defending your pawn, and then this actually is not so powerful because you can always defend it, but also in this position you would just wait with black. For example, you can even play c5 and then knight c6. Of course, I have revisionist history, I've analyzed the position, but these are just kind of the ideas. Knight a6, already a slight inaccuracy. Magnus plays d3, and Fabi chooses c6. This is the setup that he chooses. The problem with this setup is that while it deals with one of the existing problems, you might say, of the position, it does not deal with the dark square weaknesses, and now Magnus plays bishop to e3. And already, on the 5th move of the game, Magnus has a very powerful initiative. Now, one more thing about this, which is a fun fact, they played this with heart rate monitors, okay? And around here, Fabiano's heart rate was 100. Magnus's heart rate was like 65, which is nuts. High stakes match, live spectators, on a yacht. You know, Fabi's at game time heart rate, which is 100. It's not high, but it's not particularly low either. Magnus is 65. I mean, he's got the heart rate I have like when I sleep. It's like unbelievable. So bishop e3, and you see the problems, right? But Fabi here had an idea. Fabi's idea was, I'm going to let Magnus go over there, and I'm going to strike on this side of the board. And this move made Magnus's heart rate spike by 10, which was really interesting. The idea is that, of course, if you just go, and then you go, what happens now is black opens up, right? Black opens up everything. Rook f4, you cannot castle this way anymore. The only way you can castle is this way, because you can castle depending on where your rook is. Very confusing, but, you know, chess is always dabbling with new formats. So, yeah. F takes g5, though, is the move that Magnus chooses ultimately. He spends some minutes on this move. But just like in chess, in gambits, you know, in regular chess, if you take away from the center, the opponent will get the center. With e5 and f5, and by the way, maybe even d5. So Fabiano is looking to give away a pawn to Magnus to get a massive clump of pawns in the center that will be difficult to deal with. And this knight no longer matters because g5 is hanging at every line, and then your king is going to be kind of lasered here on the dark square. So Fabi gives up a pawn, and he plays the move e5, and Magnus responds very nicely with this move g4. This is a very nice move. The point of this move is that you take these pawns and you force them to lock, and you force them to make a decision. You cannot take, because then, of course, I'm going to take the rook, and then I'm going to take the pawn, and I'm just going to be better. But when you play f4, you have completely locked your pawns. You've locked them in place. Whereas in the previous version, they stood around, they dictated, you know, all these squares are occupied, you know, maybe I'm going to go forward with a D or the E or the F. No. Now you force me to lock the pawns. Now they can't make any progress against my light squares. And guess what? Now I take the knight. So Magnus very accurately here pokes at Fabiano's position, and we have queen takes g5. Now, what's funny about this is that here, it very well might have been playing h4 was better. This very well could have been the right decision because it doesn't let the queen get in the game. Black would have to go b5, and then white is a pawn up, but, you know, you never allowed black any counterplay. But here, Magnus takes on b6 pretty quickly, and you know, it's Fabiano who has some attacking ideas. So black has the 2 bishops, he's down a pawn, but he's seemingly solved a lot of his problems. Now Magnus plays knight a5 with a simple intention to take this pawn, but another intention to play knight c4. By the way, look at the evaluation. It's suddenly better for black. Black is a full pawn down. Full pawn. In fact, he might be 2 pawns down in a moment, but he has counterplay. He has a better pawn structure. And the thing about freestyle chess is, around move 15, the position starts to look like a regular chess game. Except it looks like all your pieces dropped out of the sky, like in Fortnite. You just fall out into the sky, into a field, and now your bishop is standing in the corner, all right? It's like your bishop just drank too much apple juice before sleep and is having the most ridiculous dreams, right? So Fabiano castles. By the way, that is how you castle. You castle the direction of the rook that is closest. So this rook is responsible for short castle. If the bishop wasn't there, black could long castle, but not really because you would be castling through a check. Anyway, castles. Completely giving up the second pawn. Now, I think at this point, Magnus realized being 2 pawns up is great, but allowing Fabiano massive counterplay on the dark squares is probably not good, not to mention the fact that my king is in the middle. In chess, 2 things matter, and they matter in freestyle chess as well. Material and king safety. Material and king safety matter in the United States and St. Louis. They matter in Norway. They matter in Singapore. It doesn't matter where you are. Those 2 things exist. It doesn't matter what format you're playing. So here Magnus plays bishop to e4. This move is sophisticated because what you're trying to do here is induce d5. But the thing about d5 is that you weaken the c6 pawn, and now knight b7 is lethal because after bishop takes, queen takes, this hangs, and not to mention, that's mate, which is a crazy configuration. And if de, I have queen a6, I'm winning everything. I win all the pieces, I give you a check, and now I'm safe. So bishop e4 is a very deep idea, setting up knight b7 and disallowing d5. Fabi now has to come back. That apparently is the only move. The point is that he's defending everything. Queen e7 is a very tough move to play in this position, but you are trying to set up d5. The problem is there's bishop f5, d5, bishop c8, rook c8, and b7 is still hanging, but now you come with a check. And now the king goes to d2, and we have knight c5. Fabiano definitely calculated a lot of this and opts for queen h4 straight away. He spent 10 minutes, so he plays check, king d2, and only now does he go back to e7. But the funny thing is, bishop f5 happens, but now if you play d5, after bishop c8, rook c8, and queen b7, you don't have a check anymore. So the crazy part is, there was a moment Fabiano needed to decide, do I check the king now? Do I inconvenience the king and move him to the center now? Or do I play queen e7 and set up that sequence, but keep the option to attack the king? And there's always this moment, you just don't know. You don't know. Is now the moment or is the moment later? And so Fabi decides, look, it makes sense to force the king to the middle, but is it? Does it make sense? Is it the right moment? Queen e7, bishop f5. And suddenly, it looks like Magnus has consolidated. Because right here, Fabi doesn't know the advantage, right? He doesn't know what the evaluation is, but he needed to go back to e7 a little bit faster. But because he gives the check, he actually helps Magnus. And suddenly, Magnus is okay. d5 is not as possible. The knight comes to c5, right? But now, who replaces the bishop on the e4 square? It's the knight. And in this weird mess, Magnus is preventing Fabi from playing d5. Somehow these 4 pieces are just shoving the black pieces back. They're not letting them get out. And this king needed to be on e1 so Fabi could dart out there and attack it at a moment's notice and then consolidate. But now, knight e6, and Magnus has a very clear plan here to simply get rid of the knight. Now, if black takes with the d pawn, positionally he is losing because these pawns are stuck. Knight c4, the bishop is behind a pawn, and this bishop is behind a pawn. Like I said, it looks like the pieces just fell out of the sky. It's like a painting. I mean, it doesn't look like it makes any sense. It looks like if you dreamt about chess. And you'd be like, oh, the bishop, oh no, the bishop from t74 in the corner, oh God. Yeah, that's sort of what this looks like. Obviously, he's got to take with the queen. He's desperately hoping for this. But now knight takes b7, and black's light-squared bishop only gets to make one move, and it has to be traded. Queen b7, but it's not over. I mean, the king is still in the center. Queen c7, rook b2. But it turns out, taking the free pawn is the final mistake of Fabiano. what's crazy about this position is there's still a move here, d5, which looks like it solves all of black's problems. The knight has to move, but it doesn't because queen h7 and knight g5. And the crazy thing is, Magnus is up 3 pawns, but somehow the position continues. Black keeps fighting. There's rook b2. There's also e4 ideas in the future, and it's kind of unpleasant. But queen c7, rook b2 is the problem, because now Magnus reverses everything back onto Fabiano. He plays rook b1. Now we see the issue. The issue is black's king in the long run is way weaker than white's king. And it doesn't matter that you're going to lose these pawns. Magnus has already infiltrated the position. Queen a2 is the move chosen, but after take, it's the pawn that couldn't move. It is the key pawn of the entire game. And, you know, freestyle chess has this really weird thing where stuff like this happens, where there is like one major piece that's like the cornerstone of the position, and it never gets to move, and now black is just lost. Again, the position kind of looks like a regular game. White's knight dominates the bishop, the king is weak, and Magnus is up a pawn. And he's up 13 minutes. And he's wearing like a super sexy blue suit. Like, I don't know if you saw the live stream, but he was wearing like a blue suit, I think. Bro was looking fly. I can't remember if he was wearing it today or he wore it yesterday. I want a radiant blue suit. That look cool. Anyway, queen b4 check, c3, queen b2, and the white king just felt safe in the center. You can check again, but the king is going to run away. You can take the pawn. I'm going to defend myself. It's kind of crazy. Look at this. Queen c1 here, queen e2, and just rook f2. This is defended. And that's the end of the game, because after queen e3, I give you check, I eat a pawn, you just lose. I eat this pawn, I come back and eat that pawn. You just don't have anything here for me. Not to mention the fact, and I win your queen. Brutal. So Fabio plays bishop g7. Let's watch how Magnus puts the finishing touches, gives a check. And let it be known, queen e6, let it be known, by the way, just small thing. The only way for white to play for a win here, the only move, rook f3. Like a surgeon. Because queen c1, king f2, there now is no check. And in every good position, there are two ways to win. Take the game to an endgame and win it in the long run, or win it now. And he's going to win it now. He's going to win it now by bringing his rook over here and setting up completely irresistible threats against the black king. Queen g6, knight g5, provided no move weakens his king. Fabiano tries to create some counterplay with the f-pawn. It's a great move. Magnus again, playing pawn takes f3. The rook goes to b8. And now, again, the only move. Again, the only move. You know, somehow, like, look, Fabi is still fighting, man. He's still fighting. You play knight g5 in this position, it's rook b2, and it's mate on e1. I mean, Fabi's still fighting. A move before getting mated. The ending of this game feels like a James Bond movie. Magnus Carlsen, decked out, in a suit, playing for his life on a yacht in Singapore against Fabiano Caruana, the evil Italian mastermind. If Magnus loses, the yacht blows up, the dock blows up, all right? And he doesn't get the girl, he doesn't save the world, none of that stuff. Rook b8, the final trick from the Italian villain, and Magnus kicks out a window for his king. All right, we got rook b2 incoming, we have queen e1 incoming, but the saving grace is the getaway, the speedboat at the bottom of the yacht. We got rook b2 check, king g3, queen to g1, king to h4, and Magnus, aka the Scandinavian James Bond, if you will, runs out, jumps out into the water, lands on the speedboat, makes a getaway. That's kind of how Bourne ended, right? Jason Bourne? Didn't he like jump out and then, I think kind of. And Magnus gets the job done. King to h4, he's now up 2 pawns, but more than anything else, Fabiano went all in. He went all in here. He can give him one more check. Guess what's going to happen? King to h5, okay? And now queen e8 is made, so you would need to run back. But now knight d6. King's just hanging out over here. Nobody can touch him. Knight d6, knight f7. The game can end with a smothered mate. Of course, I'm talking about this. The very famous smothered mate pattern. Fabi goes back to b8. Magnus plays knight d6. Fabiano doesn't allow smothered mate and just resigns. You can't win a game of chess in more style than that. I mean, you're playing world number 1, world number 2 on a yacht in Singapore. All right, the way they select a position is a giant lottery machine. They have this huge machine where every position is on a ball. They press a lever. All of the balls roll into a bucket. You select the position. Then the players have a little bit of time. The players have to analyze these positions ahead of time without an engine. They got to use their heads. Then they sit down and they play, and they get into these really complicated structural battles. The game itself is very fascinating. It's a little hard to understand, I think, for like a casual fan, because you're like, chess is hard enough, and now you're swapping all the back pieces every game. So it kind of becomes a little bit like Battleship, where you just put all the things randomly and then kind of go at it. But it's fascinating to watch the high-level players go at it. You can sacrifice pawns, and this entire game basically came down to a decision of Fabi to check the king or leave the king alone for a later moment to check him. And yeah, he never got to play d5. Like, this was the move that Fabi could have played maybe to get back into the game. Like, this was the final moment. He could have maybe gone for a queen e7, d5, but he hesitated, and suddenly it was too late. He couldn't accomplish d5, and his position fell apart. And I mean, Magnus winning the game by freaking marching his king out into, like, that's gangster stuff. That's, I'm telling you, no better way to win a game if you're going to play a game of chess on a yacht. That's all I have for you today. Folks, before I sign off, 2,100 stores it's now available in. There are 4,600 of them in the nation. Make sure to check. A lot of you have been asking when it's going to be available in the UK or Europe. It will be on Amazon hopefully within a month, I'm hoping. And Chessly 2.0, here are important dates. December 1st, if you are a Chessly Plus subscriber, you will get an email to access the new platform, Red Carpet VIP. December 5th, my birthday. If you have an existing course on Chessly, December 5th, you're going to get an email. And December 13th is the official launch. It's going to be a crazy few weeks. Chessly 2.0 launches the official final day of the World Chess Championship, unless it ends early. All right? Appreciate y'all very much. Tomorrow, Fabiano Caruana plays Magnus with white. They just played one game today. Then they went and partied or whatever you do in Singapore. Not too hard. Singapore's pretty strict. Don't party too hard in Singapore. Yeah, cool stuff. Boys are undressed in a pool together. I love it. Get out of here.